everything that is living. So anything that was living, anything that has life in it, that we call life, its origin begins with water. So that's very interesting because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also describes our creation as coming from, Allah created Adam alayhi salam from earth and different types of earth. And then we also hear that Allah mentions that the jinn are created from the marij min nar, the smokeless flame. And the angels are created from light. But all life is created from water. So do we consider angels living beings? Do we consider jinn living beings? And of course we know that Adam alayhi salam and Bani Adam are living beings. And an interesting angle to all of this, we were created, Adam alayhi salam was created from earth. But are we dirt ourselves now? Do we consider ourselves dirt and clay and soil? That's not really how we see it, but that is how the origin of the creation was. So similarly, the jinn don't necessarily exist as this flame that they were originally created from. Not necessarily, from the same angle. The same thing, the angels don't necessarily exist as light now, but their origin, their creation, there comes from that. And you can say, perhaps it is part of the nature. We are earthly beings. The jinn are this kind of flame-like being, and the angels are this, Allahu Alam. These are things that you see in the imagery and the descriptions, and it's actually cross-culture, not just in Islam. But so we want to go back to the point is water. Water is all living things have their origin. And actually, we see that now, that something cannot exist, that it's living without some water at some point. So this is an ever-present thing. So the question is, do jinn also need water? And do angels also need water? Are there creations that? Allahu Adam, we don't know. But from the example, we see that they're not excluded, at least by the language. So Allahu Adam. I'm not going to go too much into that. But the point is, water is all life was created and links back to water. And water as a substance, chemically and scientifically speaking, is amazingly unique. It is amazingly unique. It's what you call the universal solvent. Almost everything can dissolve in water. The things that cannot dissolve in water are listed. They're few in number compared to the fact that almost everything else can dissolve in water. Oxygen from air and other gases, minerals, of course salt for seawater, and too many other substances. Even other liquids. The liquid alcohol and water, they can mix immeasurably between each other. So all kinds of things like that. Water, chemically, is what we call polar. What does polar mean? The molecule of water, it's shaped sort of like a wide V. One side has a positive charge and the other side has a negative charge. What does this translate into? It has to do then with how ice forms, how water has a very high heat capacity. For its mass, water has one of the highest heat capacities, meaning it's very slow to change its temperature and it can store energy a lot. It can store heat or cold. Well, heat, much more than other materials of the same mass. And it is also almost incompressible. As a liquid, water doesn't change its density very much. Only temperature changes the density of water. All of these are very interesting because they relate to things that make life possible. The fact that it is polar, the fact that it is incompressible, the fact that it is a universal solvent, makes it essential to life in so many ways. Life as we know it couldn't exist except that water has these properties. The one thing that's amazing about water also, that's unlike most other liquids, when it freezes, when ice is formed, ice is less dense than water. That's why our ice cubes float in water. That's why ice forms on the surface of a lake and a river and doesn't go below. That's why icebergs float in the water. A lot of other liquids, the solid form will sink because it's denser, but water is not. It's more solid. The solid form is less dense. What does this mean? It means that even in below freezing weather, when the water should freeze, actually the layer on top freezes, that's what's exposed to the cold, and then below stays unfrozen because the part that freezes stays up, and then it blocks further cold from penetrating deeper. So the fish and the other sea creatures can still survive and don't freeze to death because of that. Subhanallah. So even when the outside is below freezing, the water doesn't drop below freezing. It does not freeze, unlike other liquids. So water provides that. And this is among the ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought life. Water, of course, comes as rain. And what is the better example of bringing life, especially from death? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, we created from water everything living, and then we descend the water down, and the water then becomes rain, and the rain hits the ground, and then emerges life from the dead ground. That was before. We're seeing it around us. Many of our yards look dead now. However, after 1 or 2 rainfalls, you're going to see that it's going to come back to life. What looked like dead, it's dirt. You're looking at dirt on the ground. You don't see that there can be life potential in there. How does Allah bring it out? He brings it out through water. What does this have to do with our iman? Of course, as believers, Allah talks about all of this, and hearing about it is amazing and beautiful. However, in the Quran, Allah frequently uses and juxtaposes water and iman and faith or revelation, the Quran. Just as the water descends down to the earth and brings life out of the death, Allah descends the revelation and with it brings out iman from the dead hearts. So where there was no iman, where there is death, where there is a lack of any kind of spirituality, Allah can bring from that. And the living versus the dead, this is just the comparison of the ones who believe versus the ones who don't believe. And one who doesn't believe could be brought to life with iman. The difference is people accept or don't accept. And there are substances in the earth that accept and don't accept water. The rocks, the water will not absorb into them and it will just flow off and nothing will grow on them. But the dirt will absorb the water and things can grow and flourish in there. So you have to ask, are our hearts the fertile hearts that will accept the revelation and from that blossom our iman? Or do we have hearts like rock, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions as well, that it will not bear any water and it will not hold any iman. No matter what it is exposed to, it will not soften, it will not become life-giving, and it will stay dead. So, my dear brothers and sisters, it's a simple khatira, a short khatira, just some simple reminders like this, just to share with you some things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us about water, how it intersects with the real physical world, and it's something that we can observe. And in what we observe, there are the examples and the parallels and the parables for us to understand the rest of our iman. Allah gives the example of life and death with water, just as He gives the example of belief, iman and kufr with the revelation and iman. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to soften our hearts. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us hidayah, guidance. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us in this world with the beneficial rain and water, and to bring back the life from that, and to lower the temperature down a little bit as well. And we ask Allah